Flash flood promised the night the river spoke. The siren over Slide Rock tried to scream and failed. My gauge pinged rapid rise, and a voice on the canyon radio, one I didn't know yet, said my name like a rope. Noah. Don't step into the water. I am Noah Reyes, 32. Hydrologic technician for USGS out of the Flagstaff field office. I measure rivers for a living stage discharge, the way mud remembers your shoe size months after you've left. My beat is the Verde, the Little Colorado, and the temperamental stretch of Oak Creek Canyon that every postcard photographer in Arizona has flirted with. I climb and calibrate and coax data from metal mines bolted to rock. My office smells like wet rope and printer ink. My truck smells like that, plus whatever the last gas station burrito decided to become. People think of floods as a monsoon thing. That's not wrong. It's just not right enough. Monsoon rain is a chorus. Flash floods are a soloist, one cloud, one ridge, 1 hour, and then a creek that swore it was a friend becomes a stranger with your face in its hands. We have sirens at Slide Rock State Park because people don't read signs and because water keeps secrets until the minute it doesn't. I don't talk much about the fall. 3 summers ago, a ladder step at Grasshopper Point pretended to be there and wasn't. I fell 12 feet and landed in a posture that a chiropractor later called ambitious. That scar on my shoulder looks like punctuation. Since then, I still climb, but I count my steps like I'm telling the canyon a story it already knows. It hasn't tried to interrupt me yet. At 16:38 on a Saturday in late July, my phone did the particular buzz that means a gauge isn't happy. OAKC 10R Slide Rock Station threw a rapid rise flag 6 inches in 6 minutes. Climbing radar showed a fat cell parked over West Fork like a dog on a couch it wasn't allowed on. The Coconino County radio lit with the sharp, helpful voices of people who spend their afternoons discouraging tourists from dying. A tone went out. Flood warning. Oak Creek at Slide Rock. I was already halfway up 89A in the government truck, half on duty, half on a superstition I call the Guardian Drive. If a gauge cries, you go look it in the eye. I topped a rise and saw the parking mess that means a good day. Families in red dust. Coolers like low color. Teenagers performing bravery for each other. The creek doing its sly green thing, pretending innocence. The siren should have howled. It coughed instead to notes of panic, then a death rattle. People looked up like a movie had paused on the wrong frame. My radio snapped. Slide Rock. This is Coconino SAR. Siren failure. Initiating verbal and whistle warnings. Park staff, move low to high. Another voice backed it. Flag PD, traffic unit, here we're pushing folks to the stairs. And then a new voice, lower calm as a well-tied knot. All units, this is Eli Hart, rope tech with Coconino. We have a stuck subject mid-channel near the slick white shirt backpack. Noah, are you in the park? My name said like a sentence that knows its grammar. USGS Reyes on site, I said, already out of the truck. Already checking the skyline for the knife of rain I didn't want to see. Gauge shows 6 sirens down. I'll hit the manual horn at the kiosk. Copy, he said. And Noah donned step into the water, but the truly shocking part hadn't happened yet. I banged the air horn with the kind of authority that makes toddlers cry and middle-aged men feel judged. Flash flood warning. I shouted like it hadn't been invented on the radio 2 minutes ago. Everybody out of the channel. Head upstairs. Rails, do not jump from rocks. Tourists obey from embarrassment first, then from sense. The creek didn't look angry yet. It looked like it had a plan. A park ranger blew a whistle in the rhythm they teach you in lifeguard class. People started moving. Down by the slick, the famous chute of carved sandstone that turns adults into children, and children into rumors the men in. The white shirt stood on a mid-channel boulder, 1 foot shaking with the effort of pretending he wasn't scared. Water licked at his ankles like a dog with bad manners. He looked 30 maybe. Good posture, bad choices. A guy in a ball cap yelled, "You can jump it," which is a phrase that has caused a lot of paperwork. Do not jump. I yelled, do not face upstream. Sit if you have to. The water climbed his shins and decided it liked him. He sat, good. The time between good and not good is 3 to 5 seconds in Oak Creek. Eli, I said into the radio, I've got him. I'm at the Slick River right. Copy, don't get cute, Eli said. which is professional, for I don't want to meet you today via paperwork. I skittered across a low shelf to get closer, keeping 3 points of contact like a religion. The slick rock wore water like glass. The man's backpack had a water bottle in the side pocket and a strap that looked by The first tongue of brown water snuck past his knees. Upstream, the creek rating curve in my head turned into a staircase. "You're going to be okay," I said to him, voice low. "I need your name, Tyler," he said. He was trying to be brave in front of his friends, and failing in a way I respected. "Okay, Tyler, I'm Noah," I said. "I'm going to toss you a line. You're going to clip it to your backpack strap, don't tie knots. When you feel the water, push, don't fight. Lean into it, and we'll guide you." Is it fast?" he asked. "A line I will hear in my sleep for as long as my spine cooperates." "It's fast," I said, "because truth is a kind of rope. But we'll go with it. Wait, don't miss this detail. I carry a throw bag in the truck because USGS teaches us to respect the way water loves to change the subject." I heaved it with that prayer to shoulder scars, and it landed like it wanted to be useful. He clipped good. The water took a 1/4 inch, and then an inch, and then made its decision. He slid off the boulder into the channel like he'd meant to all along. I yelled, and he did, and we pendulumed him to the shelf like a store demonstration of physics. When he hit rock, he clutched the shelf like a friend. His friends made a noise like a laugh that tripped and turned into the kind of cry that means we get to have a future argument about this. "Up you go," I said, and put a hand under his elbow. He felt like adrenaline and Red Bull and a man who will eventually be very, very sorry to his knees. He stood, he wobbled. He clung to me and didn't pretend he wasn't. As Eli said on the radio. "Don't make a habit." "Trying not to," I said. Secondary subject, river left, pinned foot, a ranger called. Shin wedged. "He's calm, but water's coming." "Our water?" Eli said to me. "I'm 2 minutes out from the pedestrian bridge with a tension diagonal kit. Noah can, you get the manual siren on the ranger truck." "I want noise." "I know the box," I said, and ran, counting steps, counting the sky. Counting the seconds between lightning and thunder, because old habits think they're math. The manual siren is a crank-hold school horn that would impress a 1950s firefighter. I turned it like an apology. It bellowed. People started climbing with a new kind of effort, the kind you spend on your future self. When I looked back at the creek, it had changed languages. The clear had gone tea-brown. The tie-brown went espresso. The surface boiled where it used to preen. Logs appeared like opinions. Tyler's friends reached the stairs and cried without shame. A ranger pointed tourists to high benches. Another counted heads like rosary beads. I saw him then like coming down the path with a pelican case in one hand and a coil of static rope over his shoulder, like an insult to gravity. He was tall, in the way of men who spend time with cliffs. His build said pull-ups and form, not mirrors. His hair was sweat dark, his jawline a thesis about determination. He wore SAR red the way some people wear suits, like it had been tailored by experience. The thing I noticed, before I let myself notice anything else, was his eyes. "That wilderness green you only get in pines or rivers that mean it, Reyes," he said, and found me in a crowd like it was easy. He offered a gloved hand, quick and firm, no elbow-pumping nonsense. Eli Hart. "Gage is honest," I said, "because I suffer from a disease called small talk isn't real. Manual horn works." We pulled one. He nodded, like we were adding ingredients to a recipe he already liked. "Pinned foot." "River left notch," I said. "Shin wedge." "On granite. He doesn't know yet that it hurts. We'll break it before it does," Eli said. And you would think he was arrogant if you weren't watching him already. Build the rope in his head. We reached the spot. A man calf-deep, foot in a crack, leg doing that horrible angle that isn't an angle yet. The water climbed from mid-calf to knee while we watched. His friend male, early 20s, stood on a rock with his hands open like he was pleading with physics. "Hey, man," Eli said to the trapped one, voice low, like we were ordering at a counter. "What's your name?" "Sean," he said. He had the particular pallor of a person trying to stay in their body. "Okay, Sean, I'm Eli. This is Noah. We're going to put a rope across and take your weight off that foot. You're going to lean into this harness like it's a chair. I'm going to say stand when I say stand. Before that, you're on vacation." He smiled like he'd practiced that line in better weather and liked how it felt to me. "Quick, We'll run a tension diagonal from that ponderosa to this anchorate mill static. You mind the tail and talk him through breath? I breathe for a living, I said. He glanced at my patch and grinned. Same religion. I thought a rope would be enough, but the river had opinions I hadn't heard yet. We built the anchor like a sentence with no grammar errors. Figure eights, munters, prusiks, the quiet dance of knots that make a day become a story you get to tell. Eli moved like he was negotiating with the canyon. I set the tail and watched his hands for the way they held the device confidence without contempt. Okay, Sean, Eli said, clipping the improvised seat harness on him with speed. On my count, 3-to-1 stand, we took load. The rope sang one note and shut up. Sean's foot slid half an inch. His face rearranged itself into a shape that might be tears or laughter. Again, Eli said, 3-to-1 stand. The foot came free with a sound I could feel in my own leg. He yelled like a dog that had forgotten how to be a human and then remembered. We pendulumed him to river right. He collapsed on the shelf like a prayer. His friend cried the way men cry when they didn't think they would. Eli checked the shin a mess, but intact. You're lucky, he said. You get to be sore and alive. My shoe. Sean asked, ridiculous and perfect. River rent, Eli said gravely. We'll invoice you. He looked at me then. Really looked like the seconds had finally allowed it. Up close, his eyes had flecks of gold that I would later accuse him of having on purpose. Nice throw earlier, he said. You heard? I asked, and realized of course he had. The canyon is a rumor mill with walls. Felt it, he said. And I stored that sentence like a photograph. You haven't seen the biggest surprise yet. The creek kept climbing. The siren remained stubbornly dead, the manual horn heroically annoying. Rangers shepherded families to the stone steps like sheepdogs with clipboards. The sky upstream went that bruised yellow you get when dust and rain sign a treaty. I watched the USGS app update in real time. Oak won 2.8 feet, gives 3.1, gives 3.7, gives 4.2. I could visualize the rating curve like a friend's face. We were in the part of the graph where inches become cubic feet per second by the thousands. Eli asked. Just those two teens on the lower shelf, a ranger said, pointing. Two boys 16. Wore bravado like a discount jacket. The water had cut off their easy exit and was thinking about being rude. I've got them, I said. Eli's face did an expression I would come to translate as, be careful, or I will pretend to be mad. We'll go together, he said, and handed me a second throw bag like a man lending a tie. We took a high line along the cliff, boots finding purchase where none was advertised. The boys' faces flickered between fearless and new. You guys like obeying directions? Eli asked. They looked at each other, and then at him, and decided the answer was yes. You'll be our favorite kind of rescue. He clipped a leash on each, and we frog-marched them to the stairs. Thanks, one of them said, quiet, like he didn't want to break a spell. Be smarter, Eli said, equally quiet. Reyes, the radio said in the sheriff's voice, which is how you know it's time to listen. We've got an RV stuck on 89A hairpin southbound. Traffic building. Park closure, in effect. How's the creek? Angry, but manageable, I said, because nobody benefits from poetry on that channel. Stage at 4.6 and rising. Copy. Keep your feet, he said. Which is sheriff, for I prefer not to call your mother. It was then because the canyon knows timing that a man with a drone launched it from the overlook like a child setting loose a toy boat. Rangers generally hate drones with a doctrinal passion. On a flood day, they're worse than mosquitoes. Eli turned, about to deliver a lecture in the dialect called official when the drone's operator mid-30s quiet held out his phone and said, I'm FAA certified. Sarasis waiver. You want the overhead? Asterisk Eli blinked. You legit? The guy showed a laminated card. The sheriff on radio said, if he's got eyes, I'm not proud. Okay, Eli said. Not happy, but not stupid. Find me anybody low. The drone zipped upstream like a huge, self-righteous insect. We watched its feed a square of river and tourists and the beautiful, terrifying neutrality of nature. There, the operator said, and tapped the screen. A couple on a mid-channel island above the slick water gnawing, debating whether to be a monster. The couple waved at nothing in particular, in the way people do when they think cameras make miracles. Can we reach them? The ranger asked. Not with a pendulum, I said. It's too wide and the load's too dumb. There are dumb loads and then there are two humans clinging to a boulder pretending they're not slippery. Helitack is 30 out, the sheriff said. We don't have 30, Eli's jaw ticked. We have 10, he said, which is the kind of math that wins or doesn't. He looked at the bridge, a pedestrian structure a priver with enough height to do something ill-advised. We can build a guided lower from the bridge to the island, he said. That's ambitious, I said. And then I heard Ms. Angie, my high school track coach, laugh in my head and say, when did you start negotiating with the idea of possible? We don't have 30, he repeated. And that was the whole ethics lecture. We jogged upriver with rope like we were late to an exam. On the bridge, Eli barked the kind of orders that come from respect, not panic. Anchor there and there. Double-check redundancy. Prusik minders, not your favorite, but they're the ones we have. Don't get clever, he looked at me. You comfortable running the lower? Comfortable is a strong word, I said. Competent is available. He grinned quick, bright like lightning that likes you. I'll take competent. We built the twin tension like people who had read the book and edited it together. The drone hovered as if it had hired itself as a PA. The couple clung. The river made its case for being left alone. Eli yelled to them, Marco. The man shouted, Dylan. The other echoed. Good names are better than pronouns. When you're telling people what to do while they're trying not to die. Okay, Marco and Dylan. Eli shouted. You're going to see a rope swing down like a polite snake. Don't grab until I say, or it will lie to both of us. To me, Loa will send the rescue seat first. You run the angle, I'll ride the edge, copy? I said. We lowered the seat. It kissed the island, slid, tried to be unhelpful, then did its job. Marco grabbed too early. Eli's voice turned into a bell. Wait. The rope obeyed the tone, and so did Marco. When we had the angle, when the water wasn't trying to bite our hand, Eli said, now, clip good Dylan. Hands on Marco, you are both one person now. We lower-hauled like we were playing a duet. The seat moved through brown air that called itself water. Marco's eyes did that flicker people do when they compare the life they have to the one they could have had. Dylan shouted something, not words, just a sound old as boats. At the shelf, rangers grabbed them like kindness. They collapsed into each other like a promise they had been postponing. The drone tilting in for its own version of applause, Eli exhaled like a man remembering his original plan had included sleep. He looked at me, a question in it I was too cowardly to answer in public. I looked back, an answer in it I was too honest to hide. Rehook. I thought we'd earned an easy ending, but the canyon keeps one secret for the last minute. By 1810, the stage crested. The creek, having performed its opinion, began to negotiate. The park closed officially. The rangers counted past 100 until counting turned to story. The drone guy landed his buzzing virtue and showed Eli the footage. Eli didn't watch long. He's not sentimental in the first 10 minutes after a save. He saves it for later, which is the only way your ribs don't crack. We coiled rope and moved to the ranger office for the after part. Wet paperwork, dry radio chatter, the ritual of putting names on the list of people who get to argue about dinner. The fluorescent lights made everyone look like they had already told the truth and didn't need to again. Hydro, Eli said, handing me a paper cup of hot cocoa that tasted like the memory of better cocoa. You all right? I laughed once, surprising myself with how honest it sounded. I am now. He leaned against the wall like a man who refuses to admit walls do more for him than he does for them. That throw earlier, he said. You do sports? I was a hurdler, I said, because that's the least embarrassing way to say I have a history with gravity. He nodded, like he'd guessed. He looked at my shoulder scar. I know a 12-foot fall when I see a souvenir, he said gently. Ladder lied, I said. Don't they all? He said, and our smiles met in the middle. I have to go, baby the gauge, I said. She sulks after a big rise. He asked, not mocking, just cataloging. I gender machinery that tries to kill me, I said. Fair, he said. You want company? I do not usually say yes to a sentence like that from a stranger, but the day had been abundantly rude, and his voice did the thing voices do when they have learned how to be useful without being loud. I'll trade your labor for a tragic gas station burrito. Sold, he said, like he was buying into debt on purpose. We drove the service, tracked to the gauge house, a metal box on stilts, painted the color bureaucrats think is nature. The water lapped, less feral now, Like a dog remembering it, knew some commands. I keyed the door. The inside smelled like mice, river breath, and wires. Eli ran a hand over the data logger like he was greeting a horse. How you read a river with this stuff, and a good guess it's magic. It's math, I said, then softened it. Math that behaves like magic. If you're respectful, he nodded. Respect is the hinge. We swapped the desiccant, logged the crest, checked the battery. He held the ladder for me without performative chivalry, which is a love language I'll allow on a second date, and also maybe the first. Hydro, he said. When we were done, you didn't step into the water. You told me not to. I said, that doesn't stop most people. He said, most people don't have this scar. I said, he looked like he wanted to touch it, and like he knew not to. The air between us learned a new word. What you've seen so far is nothing. At the top of the service stairs, the canyon gave us that afterstorm show. It keeps secret until you tip well, gold light on wet rock. Pine resin turning the air into tea, a breeze that smelled like repaired promises. Families loaded cars with the solemnity of survivors. Marco and Dylan hugging like they were prepping for a better argument, laid a sauce and lifted their hands. With the gratitude you say for people who didn't preach at you. While you were scared, we should have gone home. Instead, we took the long way through the day-use area, picking up water bottles because it felt like tribute. Near the slick, on a high rock with a good vantage, a teen with a Polaroid took a picture of the creek and shook it with the useless enthusiasm that makes chemistry laugh. He asked if we wanted one. Eli said, we're good, but the kid aimed anyway. And the camera's little mouth spit out a square that looked like a secret. Eli's phone buzzed. He made the face of a man who knows bosses on a first-name basis. Debrief, he said. Sheriff wants 15 words or fewer. You coming? I have a ritual, I said. I say thank you to the creek. It doesn't care. I do, he nodded. Meet us at Oak Creek Overlook. After. Deal, I said. He hesitated like a person testing a bridge in a dream. Then he stepped forward. Close enough that I could smell rope and pine, and the clean of whatever soap rope guys are brand loyal to. He lifted his hand to my shoulder. Not the scar, not yet just the place where muscle meets the truth that you have arms. He didn't squeeze. He rested. If you panic, he said the sentence I had started hearing as a blessing. Tell me. I already did, I said. He smiled, and it made my chest change shape. Me too, he said. He left with the rope flaked like a promise. I stood and listened to the creek practice, being innocent again. I thought that was our ending then. The canyon sent its small proof. At Oak Creek Overlook the day, and the highway shook hands. Vendors sold jewelry that had more story per gram than most relationships. The wind pulled whispers from the pines. The sheriff said his 15 words, no fatalities. To minor injuries, siren maintenance priority. Thank the staff. The drone guy showed cell phone footage of the guided lower to a cluster of teenagers who took a break from being invincible to be impressed. Asterisk Eli leaned on the fence, hands hooked in the wire, a posture my heart filed under here. He looked at me the way overcast days look at a sunbreak, like they're allowed to be surprised. You okay? I keep being okay, I said. He laughed. Hydro, you're going to be a problem, he said. Which is a thing you say when you mean solution and you're trying not to sound like a poet. The teen with the Polaroid found us. He held up the square like an offering. The photo is weird, he said. Not sorry. I shot the creek, but, like, you're in the corner. In the foreground, the brown smear of the crest, now dropping. In the midground, the gate of light under cloud. In the left corner, two small figures near the gauge house stairs, one in SAR red, one in a USGS shirt foreheads, close like the beginning of a joke we were too tired to tell. Not a kiss, not a briefing. Something with the decency to happen off-duty. You can have it, the kid said, awkward and generous. You sure? Eli asked. Yeah, he said. It looks like when grown-ups tell the truth. He blushed like he'd said a thing about us. He didn't have permission to say thank you, I said, and meant it like water. We didn't pose. We didn't perform. We held the tiny photo like a measurement that mattered. Final last-second shock. 2 days later, Arizona Highways posted a short montage of the flood park staff whistling. Rope over the river, tourists climbing, the creek doing its feral hymn. The last shot a half-second that nobody noticed until someone did froze on a Polaroid lying on a ranger desk. In the square, 2 men in the corner of a canyon, heads inclined, hands not touching, water behind them remembering It had been loud. The caption, added by some intern with better instincts than their job requires, small, honest enough. Asterisk Eli texted me the link, and then, after a minute, that was probably a decision, dinner. I wrote back, always, he said. Good, because I am. He picked me up in a truck that had opinions about terrain. We ate burgers at Macy's and compromised on pie. We didn't make a plan for the future. We made a ritual. When it rains, we check on each other. When it doesn't, we go count stars on the mesa and call that research. When the siren works, we clap once, like good students. When it doesn't, we tell the canyon a story and try not to interrupt. Sometimes the safest place isn't a house up the hill. Sometimes it's the length of a rope, shared. Sometimes it's a voice on the radio saying your name, like a roof. Sometimes it's a tiny corner of a photo proofing that two people decided to be visible for the duration of a breath. I'm here, I said to him one night when the sky performed. Me too, he said, and Oak Creek Petty. Proud and older than our paperwork listened.